Jummy sat on her bed, gazing at her engagement ring with admiration. The radiant golden band glistened in the morning light, serving as a constant reminder of the progress she and her partner had made. She smiled, reminiscing about the boy who used to share his lunch with her during break time in high school. Dele had been her closest companion, always shielding her from bullies and escorting her home after classes. Their romance blossomed in high school, where they developed a strong connection and contemplated the idea of marriage. Unfortunately, their plans came crashing down when they were informed that both of them possessed the S genotype. Devastated, they made the difficult decision to part ways and pursue their own paths. Dele embarked on a journey to study abroad, while Jummy chose to remain in their hometown to pursue their education. For an extended period, they were unable to connect or communicate with one another. 6 months prior, their paths crossed once more at a friend's birthday celebration. The instant their gazes locked, it felt like they had never been apart. "Hi, Jummy," Dele said, smiling. "Hi, Dele," she replied, her heart racing. "It's been a long time." "Yes, too long. We have a lot to catch up on." And reconnect they did. Over the next few months, their friendship was reignited and rapidly transformed into a deep and passionate love. Despite their concerns about their genetic makeup, they chose to give love another opportunity. A second test confirmed that the initial result had been incorrect. They were both AA. Their joy was boundless. One evening, during a private dinner, the groom got down on one knee and proposed to the bride. With tears of happiness, she replied affirmatively. The wedding day was intended to be the most joyous day of their lives. The church was filled with loved ones, and the couple appeared glowing as they exchanged vows. However, just as they were about to depart from the church, an unforeseen visitor made their presence known. Dele's heart skipped a beat as his ex-girlfriend, Amaka, entered the room, accompanied by a young boy who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. The whispers among the guests intensified as Amaka confidently approached Jummy and Dele. "Congratulations," Amaka said with a tight smile, her eyes cold. Jummy's heart sank. "What?" she whispered, glancing at Delia. Dele's face turned ashen, his lips quivering. "Amaka, what brings you here?" "I'm here because you believed you could escape your obligations," Amaka snapped. "This is your son, Dele. Don't believe you can marry her and completely disregard him." The anxiety was evident. Jummy managed to maintain her composure, despite the pain in her heart. "This isn't the appropriate time or place for this," she said softly. Amaka smirked. "Oh, I'm sure we will." With that, she turned and walked out, leaving Jummy and Dele to face their bewildered guests. Despite the turmoil, they proceeded with the wedding, attempting to salvage the day. Dele assured me that he would provide a detailed explanation later. Following their wedding, David and Emily embarked on a honeymoon to a lavish resort in Paris. The setting was ideal: sandy shores, opulent accommodations, and candlelit meals. However, beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect relationship, cracks began to form. On their first night together, Dele approached Jummy with tenderness, eager to consummate their marriage. However, clearly anxious, she softly pushed him away. "Not tonight," she said, avoiding his gaze. Dele was surprised. "Jummy, we're now officially married. What's the problem?" I can't," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Dele was astonished. He had respected her choice to delay marriage, but now, after waiting for so long, he felt rejected, hurt, and frustrated. He reserved another room for himself that night, unable to sleep in the same room. The next day, they avoided each other, and by the third day, Dele said they should end their honeymoon early. "There's no point staying here if we can't even have fun together," he said, sounding annoyed. Jummy agreed, but they told their families lies, saying they were still enjoying Paris. When they got back home, their relationship got worse. Jummy's dad, who was rich, had given Dele a house and a car for their wedding. But instead of bringing them closer, the new house made the gap between them bigger. Dele started to ignore Jummy, spending lots of time at work. When he was home, he barely talked to her. The air was heavy with tension. One morning, Jummy tried to talk to him. "Dele, we need to talk about what's happening." "There's nothing to talk about," Dele said, not looking up from his phone. "There is," Jummy insisted. "We've been distant since the honeymoon." "What's up?" Dele lost his temper. "What's up? You tell me, Jummy. You've been cold and distant from the start." "This isn't what I expected." Jummy was hurt but tried to keep her cool. "You think this is easy for me? You think I don't know something's wrong?" They started arguing a lot. Dele was frustrated because they weren't close, and Jummy couldn't share her feelings, making things worse. The problem with Amaka and Alex just made it all more difficult. One night, Amaka called Dele, asking for money for Alex. Jummy heard this and faced him. "Why didn't you tell me about your son?" she asked angrily. "I didn't know how," Dele confessed. "I was afraid you'd leave." "Well, congratulations," Jummy said, her voice full of bitterness. "You're losing me anyway." After that, things got even worse. Every day, they woke up hating each other. They fought about everything: dirty clothes, unwashed dishes, even how they set up their pillows. Dele often complained about Jummy's cooking skills. "I can't keep eating out like I'm single," he yelled one night. Jummy, feeling hurt but defensive, shot back, "I'm trying. It's not like I've ever done this." One day, Jummy nearly set the house on fire while cooking plantains. Smoke filled the kitchen, and Dele came running. "What's wrong with you? Can't you do anything right?" he shouted. Jummy, embarrassed and shaking, said, "I'm trying." But it was never good enough. Dele's annoyance with her cooking and how she managed the house just kept their arguments going. Jummy used to work for her rich dad. She was smart and independent, but after marriage, Dele said she should stay home. "You'll look after me, the house, and our kids," he had said, sounding sure. Jummy agreed, hoping for a happy life. Her dad was mad but stayed out of it. "It's your marriage, Jummy," he had said. "I won't make you go against your husband." Things changed when Dele lost his job. His stress from home affected his work, leading to his dismissal. With no money coming in, their savings started to disappear. One evening, Dele stormed into the kitchen where Jummy was cooking. "This is all your fault," he shouted. "What are you talking about?" Jummy asked, surprised. "I lost my job because of you. You're a witch, Jummy. You've ruined my life." "Are you crazy? How is that my fault?" Jummy exclaimed. "You distract me," Dele yelled. "You bring me bad luck," Jummy, tired of it, responded. "Maybe you lost your job because you're not good at it. Stop blaming me." Dele left the kitchen in anger, leaving Jummy crying. Making things even harder, Jummy couldn't get pregnant. Every month was a letdown, and Dele used this against her in every argument. "At least I work," Dele sneered in one heated clash. "I have a son. What do you have?" "You're barren." Jummy's heart broke each time he said it. She'd cry herself to sleep, worried that Dele would go back to Amaka and Alex. With no money coming in and bills stacking up, Jummy humbled herself and asked her father to give Dele a job. "Please, Daddy," she implored. "Just hire him. We're really struggling." Her father, still upset about Jummy quitting his company, refused. "Let him prove he's the man he says he is," he said with conviction. "He should find his own job," Jummy begged, but her father was set in his decision. When Dele learned of her plea, he was furious. "You went begging to your dad? Do you think I'm worthless?" "I was just trying to help," Jummy cried out. "I don't need your help." Dele retorted, "I'm a man. I'll deal with it myself." But he didn't. Weeks passed, and Dele was still without work. His bitterness towards Jummy grew, and their fights became unbearable. One evening, during another argument, Dele's frustration exploded. "You're barren, Jummy," he shouted. "No peace, no kids, nothing. It's like I married a witch." Jummy's eyes welled up with tears. "A witch? Me? You're the one who's useless." You lost your job, and now you blame me for everything." Dele glared at her, enraged. "At least I had a job to lose. But what have you done except complain?" Jummy pushed him away forcefully. "Get out," she screamed. "Leave. If you think I'm the issue, then go. Don't come back." Dele grabbed his bag and left without a word. Jummy slammed the door, filled with anger. After Dele left, Jummy was left in a quiet house. At first, it felt like a relief, a break from all the fighting. But soon, the silence weighed on her. She checked her phone all the time, hoping for a message or call from Dele. But there was nothing. Her pride stopped her from reaching out, even though she longed for him. One night, as Jummy lay in bed, she experienced a chilling nightmare. She and Dele were at a wooden table, chatting and laughing like in their early days. Out of nowhere, a faceless figure set a covered dish before them, grinning sinisterly. When they lifted the lid, their joy turned to horror. The plate was crawling with earthworms. They tried to escape, but the figure whipped them, compelling them to eat the worms. As Jummy placed one in her mouth, she awoke, screaming. Her heart raced, and she clutched her chest, the nightmare feeling all too real. The following night, the same nightmare returned. Jummy couldn't sleep afterwards, sensing something was deeply wrong and that she needed help. The next morning, she visited a local church to speak with the pastor. In his office, she shared her troubled marriage, Dele's exit, and her recurring nightmares. The pastor listened intently, nodding in understanding. After she finished, he leaned closer, saying, "Jummy, your marriage is under spiritual attack. These aren't just dreams, they're signs of manipulation. We must pray for God to show us the cause." Jummy nodded, tears in her eyes. "Pastor, I'm lost. Dele's gone, and I'm so alone." "Don't fear," the pastor reassured her. "God will stand for you. Stay and pray with us." Jummy didn't go home that day. She stayed at the church, praying for divine intervention, pleading for truth to surface. The next morning, the pastor approached her at the altar, his expression grave. "Jummy, God revealed things to me last night." "What did he show you?" she asked, anxious. The pastor sighed, leading her back to his office. "After your wedding, Amaka took your wedding photo to a native doctor. She ripped it in a ritual to curse your marriage. She cursed Dele for choosing you over her and their child." Jummy was stunned, her eyes wide. "Amaka? But she wasn't really with Dele. How could she?" The pastor nodded solemnly. "Amaka was envious. Knowing Dele loved you long ago, she used your reunion as a chance to bind him to her. She tricked him into a night that led to her pregnancy. Dele, being a responsible man, promised to look after the child but was clear he didn't love her. When he left the country, Amaka felt abandoned and swore to ruin him if he ever married another." Jummy's hands shook. This explains the fights, the bitterness, and the dreams. "But Pastor, how do we fix this?" The pastor took her hands, assuring her, "We will pray with all our hearts to break Amaka's curse. God's power is stronger than any darkness." For 6 hours, Jummy joined the pastor and others in prayer, seeking deliverance. As they prayed, she felt the burden on her chest lighten. Meanwhile, Dele, having left Jummy, was now living with Amaka and Alex. He thought he loved her, discussing their future, even marriage. Amaka was thrilled, believing she'd finally won Dele's love. One evening, while planning, Alex entered from Amaka's room, holding something plastic. "Mommy, what's this?" he asked naively. Dele, puzzled, saw it was a used condom. "Amaka," Dele said, suspicion in his voice. "Why is there a used condom here? Are you seeing someone else?" Amaka paled, trembling. She tried to grab it from Alex, but her panic only increased Dele's doubts. "Answer me, Amaka." Dele's voice grew louder. "Whose condom is this? Explain." Amaka stuttered. "It's not what you think, Dele." "I swear." "Then what?" Dele insisted. "Explain." Seeing no escape, Amaka broke down, crying. She knelt, condom in hand. Dele, forgive me, please. I was desperate not to lose you. Dele was baffled. What are you talking about? How does this involve me? Amaka, in tears, confessed, this is from the night we were together. I kept it, took it to a native doctor. He showed me how to use it to keep you with me forever. Dele recoiled in shock. What? I intentionally bursted that night, Amaka continued, her voice shaky. I kept it. The doctor said this was the only way to ensure you'd never leave, even if you didn't love me. He warned no one else should see it. Dele was speechless, his mind racing. A strange clarity came over him, like waking from a dream. He looked around, bewildered. Where am I? Dele muttered, his voice shaking. Amaka panicked, realizing her control was slipping away. She clutched his arm, imploring him to understand. Dele, I did it out of love. I couldn't stand you with Jummy. I thought if you stayed, you'd grow to love me back. Dele shook his head, disbelief evident. You used witchcraft to control me, to wreck my marriage. Amaka nodded, her body trembling. I was desperate. Please, forgive me. At that moment, Dele's phone rang. Jummy's name appeared on the screen. After a moment's hesitation, he picked up. Dele, Jummy's voice was firm yet filled with emotion. Come to Lagos. I've been praying for us. There's something you need to know. A lump formed in Dele's throat. I'm coming, he replied, ending the call and ignoring Amaka's pleas. He packed quickly, leaving with a heart weighed down by regret and shame, determined to fix things with Jummy. In Lagos, Dele headed straight to the church where Jummy waited. Seeing her, he broke down, tears streaming. Jummy, he whispered, I'm so sorry. I've been so foolish. Jummy embraced him, her own tears falling. Dele, I'm just glad you're here. He shared everything about Amaka's manipulation and his bewitchment. The pastor joined in prayer, seeking reconciliation and divine protection for their marriage. Jummy then shared her own painful truth. Dele, there's something I need to tell you. Remember when I pulled away on our first day? Dele nodded, concerned. I was raped by my teacher when I was young. It's left me terrified of intimacy, scared of being hurt again, of losing control. Dele's eyes filled with shock and sorrow. Oh, Jummy, I'm so sorry, he whispered, holding her close. I had no idea. I'm sorry for not understanding, for not being there, Jummy cried as Dele apologized, promising to be more supportive and protective. The pastor prayed for Jummy's healing and their renewed bond. Dele felt profound regret but also a fresh dedication to loving and supporting Jummy. 3 months later, Jummy shared wonderful news. She was pregnant. Dele embraced her, filled with joy and gratitude. Thank God, we'll be parents, he said. From then on, they rebuilt their life together, grounded in love, faith, and forgiveness, secure in the belief that nothing could undo what God had mended. Dele worked on being more empathetic and supportive, helping Jummy heal from her trauma. Their story underscores the value of communication, empathy, and the spiritual fortitude required to overcome life's trials. If you enjoy the story, please like by clicking the thumbs up, subscribe and share your comment in the lessons you've learnt. You can also tell us where you are watching from. Thanks and see you in another interesting tales. Bye.